Hi everyone, it's Roger here from What's on Disney Plus. We're here live here on that Sunday evening here in the UK. So we are doing our live Q&A. So our Patreon and YouTube channel members have been submitting questions in advance for this one. So we've got a number of questions that we're going to get into. Also, you can jump into the live chat right now. If you're a YouTube channel member, you can become a member from as little as $2. And all of this helps support the channel, helps support the website, and keep going. So hopefully you guys can hear me. I see we've got Kaylee, Baba Trolling, and Tom already in the chat. So a big thank you to everyone for that one there. We've got lots of great questions today. Before we go any further, just a quick shout out to Azhar, who has been doing up some new artwork for the intro for the Q&A and some just new artwork and some new video stuff. So a big thank you to him. You can find the contacts in the links below. I just wanted to give him a little bit of a shout out because he's done a fantastic job with the new look Q&A. So let's jump into it. So we've got some fantastic questions. See, we've got a few people already in the chat, so that's fantastic. So let's start off with the top of the show with the question at the beginning. So Mammoud said, with Ant-Man and the Wasp arriving on Disney Plus in May, why is it taking so long for Avatar: The Way of Water to arrive on Disney Plus? Now, I've seen a lot of people kind of commenting on the fact of like it's available on digital and it's not on Disney Plus, and why is it taking so long? And it's like the movie came out before Christmas, and here we are. We're just literally a few hours away from May, and it still hasn't arrived yet. Ultimately, I think there are a few major reasons for this. Now, first off, the money. That's the big key thing. They have been making a lot of money. This is one of the biggest films of all time. It is extremely expensive. It is also been a huge box office success, pulling in over $2 billion. So, there's very few movies that get into that category, and this is one of them. Sending it to streaming early does not benefit Disney from the point of view of making more money at the cinema. So that is obviously a key aspect to the release of Avatar: The Way of Water. They want to, but also I do feel like with Avatar: The Way of Water, it is a very special film in the fact that it is probably best seen in the cinema. It looks amazing. There's like the 3D element makes it look. It's so much different than any other film out there right now. So it being in cinemas longer is beneficial to everyone. Also, James Cameron, the creator of the film, loves cinema. He loves the best technology. He wants people to see it in the best way possible. Now, it has got it did get like a repush for Earth Day last week. I don't know necessarily if it did anything like that, but it's going to be a big long one. And we're kind of seeing that's one of the big reasons is for that. Second of all, they are really kind of going back to trying to make more money from the different windows. So that is going to sort of digital platforms first, which is why Avatar: The Way of Water has already been out. We've already seen Ant-Man and the Wasp out on different platforms. And so therefore, like Ant-Man and the Wasp was about 90 days. Now, obviously, with Avatar: The Way of Water, it's much longer than that one. It has been out now on digital for much longer. There is also another major issue with Avatar: The Way of Water in that this was a film which was probably is the last film as part of the HBO deal in the United States. So with that there, what that means is that the film in the United States has to go to HBO Max. Now, I think they made the deal when they kind of renegotiated it a few years ago that Avatar would be going to Disney Plus in the US as well. I mean, they'd be silly not to. But in that case, what happens is any benefit of sending it to Disney Plus is instantly nullified with the fact that it's also going to be going to Max or HBO Max or whatever it's called. So Disney it's kind of in some way, do they really want to be sending it to Max just when it's about to launch or relaunch? It's probably not in Disney's interest to send it there straight away because this is going to be a major title. So holding off a few more months, it also helps retrain us in the idea that not everything is coming to Disney Plus straight away. I think we're not going to be going back to the days of 45-day windows. I think 90 days is probably going to become much more standardized. It'll be interesting to see what happens with some of the other films that we've got recently. Because it feels like this year everything's kind of been rejiggied around a little bit. So things like with Ant-Man and the Wasp has kind of set the new tone. Uniloud Entertainment says, when will the Avatar: The Way of Water be released on Blu-ray? again, they've not released any information on any of this. In the same way, I suspect we will be getting this one pretty soon, as it's already out on digital. But the trouble is as well, physical media is not selling as much as it used to, and so I suspect they are also trying to just hold off a little bit on trying to get this one out. But unfortunately, both to Jonathan and to Uniloud, I just do not know yet when that's going to be coming out. Hopefully, it's pretty soon. But yeah, it definitely different. Tom asks, why didn't they just release a different film first so they didn't have to share it with Avatar 2? I suspect as well, if they delayed it, and it probably was part of a deal, like with what movies were going to be made there. And I suspect it would have been, I would imagine Warner Brothers would have had a way of kind of going, oh, you've delayed it a month to get out of our deal. Then that there would probably be some legal issues, and we don't know when they maybe re-sign the deal. Avatar might have been quite one of the the cookies to kind of go, well, you can have Avatar and we can have Avatar. But yeah, I mean, we really don't even know if Avatar: The Way of Water will even come to Disney Plus in the US. It might be a while, but I can't see how they couldn't do it. And obviously internationally, we would be getting it anyway. But I feel that is the key thing. Ultimately, it is about making money. Caleb said, going to be in and out. I do want to add that real quick that I feel Avatar 2 hasn't hit Disney Plus yet because they're still making profits off of video on demand and physical. I don't think it's actually out. It's definitely not out on physical yet. And Matt says, "Here's the new Avatar collection on Disney." I don't think they can really do. I don't think they can do a collection with one film at the minute. So that's kind of difficult with that one. Right. Okay. So let's move on to some questions. If you've got any, you can use the super chat function as well. So big thank you for sending in those. They make a big difference. You can use the YouTube function as well. Keep sending in your questions. We'll be doing this for about another half an hour or so. So Tom says, is it me or has Matt Vogel's performance of Kermit got a lot better over the last year, particularly with singing in his performance at D23 last year and the Rainbow Connection? Now, I know there was a lot of talk with when the guy that took over from Kermit, that a lot of people didn't like his voice. There was a lot of comments. And I would suspect, in the case of if you are seeing lots and lots of people unhappy with the work, that he's probably been going through some training to get his voice better, maybe, and maybe just working on it a little bit more. And maybe people are getting a little bit more. But I suspect, and I would imagine most of us would be the same, is if you were getting lots of criticism, you'd probably be trying to really do your best to try and improve what you're doing. And I suspect that's probably what's happened here. It's funny you said that. When you said that, I've been going back and watching a few different versions of Rainbow Connection over the years to try working out what does that sound like. I find it a bit difficult trying to find a difference. But we got Muppets Mayhem, though I'm not sure if he's going to be in that one yet. Similar thing with the Muppets. Tom says, with the Sony's Disney Plus deal starting to fall into place, do you think we could see the Muppets Take Manhattan, Muppets from Space, and Kermit Swamp Years on Disney Plus as they are Sony films? The chances of them being on Disney Plus is much higher now that we know that Sony deal that they signed 2 years ago is now active, especially in the United States. We've seen the Spider-Man films, we've seen it internationally. I would definitely say Disney are probably much more likely to be wanting to get hold of these films to add to the Muppets collection. So hopefully, now that we're starting to see the Sony deal kicking in the US, we will hopefully start seeing it. But again, nothing is guaranteed. Nothing is guaranteed on that one. So Caleb says, what are your thoughts on major studios in attendance at CinemaCon wanting to emphasize more on theatrical releases going forward? How will this affect Disney's future plans for releases? Now, obviously, CinemaCon was this week, and it is a convention all about cinemas and with cinema owners trying to see what's coming up and to kind of get them on. It makes complete and utter sense for the studios to be all in on cinemas at an event where you are pitching to the cinema owners to make your money. Talking about streaming there is just not, it's read the room. It's not the right place for it. And they're trying to convince, basically, in some of the cases, and I definitely feel like this with Warner Brothers Discovery, that there's a little bit of groveling going on here because they kind of, in the streaming, with the streaming wars and the pandemic, the studios were very quick to kind of go yoink and kind of left the cinemas in a situation because they couldn't, ultimately, the cinemas weren't in a position to help. I think we are seeing now that the push to streaming in the pandemic, it kind of worked in the pandemic when, films weren't, when we couldn't go cinema, but they have been getting the data. The data shows that films that get released in cinemas do better on streaming. There's more brand awareness. I feel like there's that same thing. That's what's happened now is the straight to video comparison for streaming is now that's the new version. So when you see a new movie and it's going straight to Disney Plus or straight to Netflix or whatever, we are instantly thinking of it as a lower quality film than it has gone to cinemas. And that is fundamental in most people's minds. And that is the problem with streaming movies. They are fundamentally, people just look at them as lesser value. It's just not quite the same. It can still be good. They can still be really good, but it's not quite the same. It's a bit like, you have, a McDonald's, just a cheeseburger, the basic 99-cent version, the cheap one. Or if you have one of those, nice big like gourmet burgers, it's just a simple thing. They both hit the point and you can have some good cheap McDonald's food, but sometimes it's not always the same. And I feel like now, with movies need to make money. When they go to cinema, they can make more money. They then can make more money then on when they go to digital platforms, or they can then sell them on. The windowing system has worked for decades, and they kind of threw it all away because it was dropping. Now, the truth is, the cinemas, some of the movies haven't been doing as well. The mid-tier movies definitely kind of have been struggling. The DVDs and Blu-ray sales and stuff have been dropping down. But those windows are still making money and sending us films straight to Disney Plus. The simple question is how much money has Peter Pan and Wendy made? How much difference? How many subscribers did that grab this weekend? That's the key thing. And you think of how many subscribers it would have to get, or how many subscribers specifically say we're only subscribed because of that film. It's much less, and it could have pulled in a few hundred million at the box office over it. I don't think it would have done a huge amount. I mean, it definitely wouldn't have been $1 billion movie, but it could have pulled in a few hundred million. But also the advertising campaigns, I think people view the fact that if it's in a cinema, it's generally worth more. And the streaming numbers actually, when they arrive on streaming, are not that much below, or sometimes they're even bigger than when films have been debuted there. So there's not a lot of, essentially, if they're getting the same amount of views, you might as well have tried to make some money. And then also that just helps all the way around. There's a lot of key issues there with that one there. Let's see here. So Kayla said, I also asked the same question to Cool Cut News. He said it makes sense on why they said it, but it's uncertain of what cinemas will look like in 5 years. I think we're definitely in a point where cinemas are going through a little bit of a shift. I don't think some of them, the premium screens are pulling people in and they are getting there, but I don't know if people going to the cinema is the same. We are in the middle of a cost of living crisis. People are going to the cinema much less. I've just booked my ticket for Guardians of the Galaxy on Wednesday morning. The last film I saw was Ant-Man. Pretty much everything else, I'm like, oh, I'll just wait. And, and I'm a movie fan, and I'm like, oh, I'll wait, because it's just like, it's such a hassle going down there, parking up, and all the rest of it, and the cost of it. And I'm just, for one, I know my brother, they went and saw, the Super Mario movie, suddenly there's 4 of them and treats. It's a big, expensive day out. They don't do it very often because it's so expensive. If you're on your own and if you're a student or you're on your own or whatever, you go to the cinema and you're only paying for one and maybe take your own snacks in, and you've got maybe like the discount card, or you pay a monthly subscription. You've kind of, in some ways, you get used to that's what it costs. I mean, I was the same when I was a student. I used to go to the cinema every single week for about 5 years. Would see everything just because it was like £3 to get in, and it was cheap, and I was a student and I could do it. But when you got into, families, and there's just paying for more and the treats and all the rest of it, it does suddenly become a lot more expensive. So there's definitely an issue with that one there. Let's see here. We're going to carry on with this question here. So from Connor, he says, do you think ESPN Plus will become similar to a new Discovery Plus? It could become both integrated with Disney Plus and as a separate app. I do think eventually ESPN is going to be available within Disney Plus. Maybe not for another year or so. I think they're going to have to do a lot of development. There's been a lot of shifting around within Disney with the streaming companies. And also now ESPN is now its own separate division. They're going to want to boost up their subscribers to make that division look better. And I think a great way of doing that would be if they could have ESPN as a paid option. But ultimately, it might not be, maybe they're going to wait, and it depends. They might just feel like it doesn't fit together. I think until they sort out the big green monster, we're not really going to know. Tom says, as Grey's Anatomy has been renewed for a 20th season without Dr. Grey, I think the best way to keep the show would be to have, in the 20th season, would be bringing a new character to front the show, and then either rename the show or make a new spin-off called like insert character's name, and that tie in with Station 19 as well. So, I mean, we were watching an episode last night but I'm a few weeks behind. Grey's Anatomy kind of became this thing of you get around to it eventually. It's kind of stopped becoming like must-watch like TV. You could wait weeks or months, and it didn't really make a lot. And also because the UK was always so far behind America, it didn't really matter. Most of the time you kind of knew the big problems. Now they did this season introduce a whole new batch of new characters, like a new group of kids, basically kind of almost rebooting it softly with these new characters, but now with the ones that were more aware of being the teachers. And I think it seems to be working. I personally feel like the show's coming to the point of just like, I think, let's let it go. Let's go out. I think if Grey is still doing odd little appearances and still doing the voiceover and stuff, I think she's still going to be around in season 20, but I do feel like we're at a point that may be best just to let it go. Right, now let's jump back into the live stream. Let's see what we've got here. So I'm going to start at the top here. Tom says you love the new intro. Thank you very much. Yeah, he did a great job on that one. Same from C-Tan. Yeah, it was it's nice to update it. So Ricardo says, with the layoffs happening on Disney, you think this will only affect the US or the rest of the world? You think Disney character voices international, the dubbing arm, could be affected? Ultimately, the job cuts and stuff that have happened are going to affect all of us, because I feel we are going to be seeing a lot less content. I definitely think, like with the general entertainment side of things, we are going to see a massive reduction in the amount of new content being created. A lot of the stuff that's maybe already in the process of being going through will still carry on. And some of the big shows that we're already used to watching will carry on. But I think we're going to see a lot less. A lot of it seems to be merging things together, development. I think they're just going to be cutting back on the amount of shows. Now, if they're putting out 50 shows, 100 shows a year, and they cut down to 70, it's fairly sure. I think we are going to see a drastic reduction in the amount of content they're creating for the television networks, because I feel like they're putting out so much stuff, things are getting lost. Like last week, we had Saint X, and then we had Peter Pan and Wendy, and then this week we've got the Ed Sheeran special, and then you got A Small Light starting, and then on another channel you got something else starting. And there's so many shows, and I feel like they're maybe not fully able to kind of. They're just throwing stuff out there, and I think it's kind of not necessarily hitting how that's all happening. Tom says, why didn't they just release a different... Oh, yeah, we did that one there. Matt says, do you think the Muppets Mayhem does good as we see more Muppets? Not sure. I haven't seen it yet, so we'll have to wait and see how it does. Barbara Trolling says, I think Disney will put Avatar 2 for the July 14th weekend. It makes sense. Yeah, it could do that. Definitely, that might make sense to do that. I don't know if they'll do it. Maybe Memorial Weekend at the end of May, but then that might take away then from The Little Mermaid. So depends what movie they got up going against it. Tom says, I'm always fine. I'm less inclined to watch a film if it's a Disney Plus visual. Yeah, that definitely kicks in about that one there. Kaylee says, I remember someone asked a Hindi actress, Amy, on why her latest films have been on OTT. She said she has no control of where their films released, but she hopes it is there for people to support. I do wonder if a lot of this as well has been happening is because of like the pandemic and everything's been changed around, and there's a lot of stuff been going on with that. Matt says, what are your thoughts on the movies coming out next year? Any big surprises? To be honest, off the top of my head, I'm trying to think of like what's coming out next year, because well, I'm trying to think. Oh, we've got Elo. There's a new Pixar movie. That one should be a lot of fun. Yeah, I don't know. I'm going completely blank on because there's so much stuff coming out this year that kind of they've been focused on. I can't even think of off the top of my head of what's coming up next year. And also with so many of the films being pushed back, it's been catching up a little bit. Tom says, I remember as a kid always going to cinema maybe 1 or 2 times a year. With me and my brother would always argue about which film we'd watch. Yeah, that's always a key issue. Trying to come to an agreement on which movies they'd like. Yeah, I think as a kid, I tended to like go and see movies a lot more than my brother. And yeah, he would rather go out with his mates. Until in the end, I think I'd go with my mates. We'd go cinema. They'd go out doing other stuff. Matt says, "Do you prefer a weekly release or batch release on Disney Plus?" What about a poll? Yeah, let me see. I'm gonna just see if I can quickly put together a poll. Unfortunately, we're not quite in the zone, so I'm just gonna make sure I do not get that coming up. Let's see here. Let's make a little poll, shall we? Thank you very much to I don't know why, Ryan. I don't know why your message didn't come up. Sorry about that. There was a new intro. Was there anything new? It was just a new introduction for us. Also, a big hello to Jonathan. Happy Mother's Day. Oh yeah, that's coming up in the United States, isn't it? Here in the UK, that was like weeks ago. For some reason, and I don't know why, but I've just realized that my software doesn't actually show when it's I get like a green flash up. It's not coming up, and I don't know why that is. Yeah, that's definitely an odd one. That's definitely oh, there we go. Right, let's do the poll. Let's do a poll. Let's see. So, do you like weekly or binge drops? Weekly binge. Ooh, sounds like it's just started to pour down. Okay, so I've just pop the poll up. So let me know on that one there. So that's pretty cool. Personally, I quite like the drop 3 episodes at the beginning, and then or like a bit of a bulk drop at the beginning to let us get your teeth into it. Maybe 2 episodes, 3 episodes, let you get into it, and then from there go weekly afterwards, because I feel like that allows you to kind of get your teeth into it. And I think that works really well. I think it works well also technically from like the Nielsen streaming point of view and the trending point of view, because it allows the show to get loads of minutes up front and kind of pushes it. And that's you're fighting the algorithm. They've got to do what's best for an algorithm. But I do think like doing that is better. I like with like the Mandalorian and stuff. I do feel, it does seem like here in the UK, like the data must be showing to them that the binge format seems to be working, because they keep dropping stuff in binge format. So that's definitely a thing. So we're gonna let that one go along. At the minute, we're like 80% weekly. So there's definitely like what you guys like, which is cool. Let's see here what we've got. Okay, here we go. Matt says, what are your thoughts on the live action Snow White coming in 2024? Yeah, it should be cool. I think, oh yeah, we did see a little bit of it at D23. It looks okay. I'm Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs was never a film that I don't think I watched as a kid, because it was old and a bit naff when I was a kid. So let alone like like what kids think of it today. It obviously holds a lot of key points with the storyline. I've got to give it a go. Ultimately, sometimes with these films, they work. I'm watching the recent Snow White one with was it Kirsten Stewart? That was okay. I mean, it should be. I'm not. I'll be honest. If it never came out, I don't think I'd be bothered. But that's just kind of how I roll with that one. Babek says, what do you think Disney will do with Freeform and Searchlight? Personally, I think Freeform should be combined with ABC, and Searchlight should be combined with 20th Century. Well, let's deal with Freeform first. So Freeform, I think, as a brand, is pretty much pointless. I think nowadays it's not really needed. It's not a brand that Disney uses internationally. I think it just should become just a network that they just put TV shows on, that they've got, put things on there. I don't think, by the looks of a lot of the merging of like job cuts and stuff, a lot of the Freeform stuff has been like merged in with ABC and stuff anyway. Now whether or not they get rid of the brand, I don't know, but I can't see them making any more originals. I think that's going to kind of come to an end. I think they're just going to end up with basically just being like a repeat channel, showing some Hulu stuff and bits and pieces. Searchlight Pictures, I think, is a little bit different, because I feel like Searchlight Pictures allows Disney to kind of push the boundaries a little bit more. It's a little bit more known as an indie label. It allows them some different options and stuff. So I do feel like with I think Searchlight works, but I definitely feel like it could slide under the 20th Century Studios banner probably a little bit easier in some ways. I feel like Disney's not really made the most of 20th Century since they purchased it. The branding is all over the place. They've been hot. It just they've just not utilized it enough. The theme parks haven't got anything. The merchandise hasn't. They're still trying to keep everything very separate, and it's very odd. Tom says, when do you think we're going to get all the Muppets content on Disney Plus, i.e. Muppets Tonight and the original Muppet Babies? I think the Muppet Babies might not because of and some of these ones is because of music. I think that's the big problem is the music stuff of why these shows, and they'll just be too expensive, so they'll have to cut it all out. Matt, this was an interesting one. So both Matt and Mamo both asked pretty much the same question. With Disney sharing Disney Plus originals with Hulu, why don't we see that many Hulu originals being shared with Disney Plus in the US? Probably comes down to contracts of what's been put in place. And I'm going to keep going back to this like analogy for Hulu right now. I feel like Hulu is, like when you're trying to sell your house or you're trying to sell your car, you've got to try and make it, you're trying to please a buyer, or maybe you've even sold it, but you haven't quite got the deal sorted. So you kind of got to keep the upkeep going. You've got to go around and you've got to paint the house, keep it going. You got to keep putting the plants in, and you got to make it look like you still care about it, even though it's gone. And I feel that that's the case with Hulu. They are using Disney Plus originals to prop up Hulu with content. That's it also gives that shows a little bit more more viewership. It just, in some ways, it just helps all the way around. They can make some more money off advertising. Generally, there's not really a losing point from them. They can get Hulu subscribers more used to that kind of content on there. It is a shame that more content from Hulu isn't coming over to Disney Plus. We've only really seen Love Victor and The Orville. I think we're going to be having Flaming Hot. I would admit to all surprised if we see more of this, but again, Disney has to be really careful of contracts and other legal issues until they sort it out. They can't really do a huge amount. Connor says a lot of content went AWOL when Disney Life closed in the UK 3 years ago, despite it all being available in North America. Why do you think this is? There's a lot of stuff that just never seemed to pop back up, which is strange. I don't know why. I would have thought that would have been like instantly on there. Now, whether or not some of it was like not available because it's not in the Disney Plus system and they've got to get all the subtitles and stuff done, I don't know. Just very strange. There's a whole load of stuff that's missing, like from here and in Australia that is available in other countries. It'd be great if they could just do like I would almost say like an audit and just kind of go through Disney Plus go through the system and like try and work out, we've got this on there. Where it should be? Is this show? Is it available all where it should be? And they almost, I would say they do need to do like an audit of just kind of, but they also, I think they need a team to be dealing with some of the little issues, the data errors, there's lots of little issues in there. And I feel like I'm hoping like with all the stuff that's gone on lately with the cuts and stuff, we get to a point where they can focus a little bit more. And maybe that's the key thing. We need them to focus. Joshua, with the situation involving Jonathan Majors ongoing, do you think Disney may have to recast him? I think they might do. So I'm going to say with Jonathan Majors, I feel the issue here is I feel like we have to see in what happens in court. If he gets found guilty or whatever he's done, then I think he should be gone. Obviously, if he's not found guilty, then he's been proven not guilty, so therefore shouldn't really been affected. But, and this is a key thing, and it's not just with this situation, but I feel like as a whole, Marvel has got itself into the situation with Iron Man and Black Widow and Gamora and all these kind of ones of like, we need to start treating Marvel as it's bigger than any one actor. And we can just flip a character and put, we're getting like Harrison Ford coming in to take over Thunderbolt Roth. I think we have to get into this idea that these actors can change. And I think they just do it. They put it in there. You put out an announcement that this is happening and you just do it. Because actors, quit. Actors don't want to do it anymore. Actors age, just like, Iron Man, all the rest of it. I just feel like we need to get past the idea that these characters are one actor and that is all it is. I think how many Spider-Men, how many Batman, how many Superman have we had over the years? let's start kind of. I feel like they kind of have to jump into that a little bit more. But ultimately, to me, if he's proven to be guilty, he needs to be recast. That's my personal opinion on that one. Tim says the Great North is currently showing on Foxtel in Australia. When could we see Disney Plus here in Australia? If it's still airing on Foxtel, there might be a long-running deal with this one. I don't know the specifics. Generally, if a show has been airing on another network, things are a little bit more complicated. And our final pre-done question, and then we're going to be getting into the live questions for the last 15 minutes. So feel free to keep dropping them in there. So Tim says, has 20th Century Studios released a name for the Disney 15th movie coming to theatrical, because it still says untitled on the Disney Wiki? I did try and have a look to see what this was. Couldn't find any reference of it. Disney keeps changing around release schedules. Like only last week or only this week, they announced a new film that was coming out. They might there's a movie coming out with Jonathan Majors in December, so that one might get shifted if he gets found guilty or anything like that. So that's another issue. But also remember, wikis can be updated by different people and stuff, so it doesn't necessarily mean that stuff's happening. But there's also a lot of stuff. Right, now let's jump into the live questions. Let's see where we were. Let's see what we've got here. Let's have a look at the poll. Let's see how that's doing. So we are currently we have had 30 votes. 70% of you prefer weekly. 30% of you like binge format. So that's interesting. Tom says, personally, I think we need to see less binge dropping, fewer shows, better quality, higher budgets per show, which can happen if there's just less. This is the key thing. You could I feel like doing the weekly system works in some ways to spread out your content a little bit more. It does feel like with Marvel and Star Wars that they overdid it. We've seen it. I feel like the superhero fatigue thing is real, and that really did hit it. And I feel like just doing less is more. I feel like with Star Wars, personally, I'd do Ahsoka obviously in August, and I'd leave that there for this year. I'd push Skeleton Crew into 2024, do that one, and maybe The Acolyte, because that looks fantastic. Can't wait for that one. And then push Andor a year back again. That's what I'd do if that was me. Kayla says, I do agree with film executives on emphasizing on theatrical releases. Before Pathanian released in January, Hindi cinema was struggling theatrically despite success on over the top. I'm trying to think of what that OTT was. Yeah, over the top. Kayla said, what I'll do is Disney should cease the time buys with CBN for the 700. Cease the time buys with this the 700 Club. When that happens, Freeform can consolidate with an existing channel to serve as their own Nick at Night. I don't know about Nick at Night. I don't think that stuff really works the same way anymore. It's just essentially just a channel you could put on there, different shows, How You Met Your Father. You could put on, Saint X. You can put on, you can even just do reruns of like Modern Family or something like that. I don't think they need a brand for it. I think it just needs to be an extra one. Or alternatively, if it's not making enough money, let it go. Let's see here. Tom says, call it 20th Century Searchlight. I don't think they need another branding name. But he's saying merging Freeform with ABC makes a lot of sense. And just make, I don't know, ABC Plus or ABC Plus One or something like that. But Baba says, I don't like when Disney puts Disney Junior shows on Disney Plus. Well, I'd kind of say that's Disney Junior shows on Disney Plus are there because they are massive juggernauts. They are massive for families. The biggest shows on Disney Plus are Mickey Mouse Clubhouse and Bluey and Puppy Dog Pals. These are juggernauts. These are pulling in more views than they get much more views than any of the Marvel or the Star Wars stuff. These are juggernauts. Disney Plus is for families as well as everybody else. So definitely, definitely kind of look at it like they need this. Disney Junior is massively important to it. A huge thank you to the lady Jennifer Snow for your super sticker. Thank you so much. That's fantastic. Really appreciate your continued support. It's fantastic. Thank you so much. Citan says, have you watched Peter Pan and Wendy? What did you think of the movie and the review bombing that's going on? Okay, so yes, I did watch Peter Pan and Wendy. My review went up on Friday. I did talk about it, I think, a little bit last week. Once when the social embargo came out and won the review embargo. Um, so definitely feel with that one there. That it is just I wasn't so keen on it. I thought it was a little bit my biggest problem is I am not a huge Peter Pan fan. I didn't grow up watching that movie a lot as a kid. I didn't really enjoy it so much. So I don't have the nostalgia goggles for Peter Pan. I do like the rides and obviously the music and that's all great. And I think more of that's come from more being at the parks and stuff. I do enjoy all of that stuff. But the film itself to me was a bit dull. I got a little bit bored at places. I didn't really like the kids. I kind of wanted Captain Hook to win. It was okay. There was not that kind of situation of like, this is awful. I'm never going to watch it again. I'll be honest with that one. There's something I'd rather watch. I'd rather watch Hook, to be honest. It was okay. There was problems with it. I understand where they've kind of, modernized it a bit. It did look a little bit dreary. I mean, it was very dark and dreary. It's like, who would want to live on like some barren island it didn't exactly look very inhabitable. So that's definitely not something there that's very interesting, I don't think. But what did you all think? Have you all watched Peter Pan and Wendy? Let me know. As far as the review bombing and stuff going on, it's ridiculous. I just feel like we're at a weird point now where everything that comes out is just getting attacked for any little thing, and it's just like it's a movie. It's a kids movie. It's a kids movie about a book. I don't know. I don't understand it. I don't understand. I don't get it. I just and that's out to me. I just don't get it. I don't understand why there's so much hate for everything. It's just like, if you don't like it, don't watch it. There's movies that you just, I didn't like that movie, or I didn't like this show. Fine, we all do that, but not attacking stuff and jumping on and doing review bombing. I just don't understand it. Ricardo says, I think they're going to keep Jonathan Mayers at least by the time Loki season 2, where he's going to have some participation premieres. I think they're going to have to I think we're going to have to wait and see what happens with that, with what happens with like court and stuff. I think that's the key thing. Could be why Loki might get pushed back a bit. Yeah, if they can, they might do that. Matt says, while you mentioned Disney having to continue feeding Hulu, do you think they are devaluing Disney Plus in the US too much in comparison? I do feel like Disney Plus in the US it's kind of in a lull. There's not really the slowdown of Marvel and Star Wars has kind of impacted on the idea of people aren't watching it the same thing. There's a lot of like those shows kind of there's not as much like for those shows and movies and stuff because of what's been going on. And there's some great stuff coming up this month on Disney Plus in May. We got A Small Light, a fantastic series. Please check it out when it drops on Tuesday. It's a little bit different. Give it something a little bit of how everything goes. I do feel like that is a great series. We've got the Ed Sheeran documentary coming up. I'll have my review of that going up live tomorrow. You've got Muppets Mayhem, American Born Chinese. We've got some great stuff coming up. But the US is kind of just in this weird place, and it does make a little bit of a difference. Tom says, merge Freeform with ABC, merge FX with FXXX. I don't think they can't do it with Fox because they don't own that one. Right, this one is interesting. Merging Disney Nature with National Geographic is an odd one because I don't know to me, Disney Nature is not like National Geographic. They are so different in terms of content. National Geographic is a documentary, serious documentaries, and they cover serious topics. They cover fantastic things. Disney Nature is a story kind of about animals, and it's very, very, it is not. I don't feel that Disney Nature is its own separate little thing, and it does something very differently. I don't like Disney Nature stuff. It's too not. But I can sit there and watch a documentary from that. I don't think putting the National Geographic logo on it helps National Geographic. It kind of Disney Nature's kind of carved out its own little thing. And merging Disney Plus, Hotstar, Stars, and Hulu, I think we definitely need to see some consolidation. I think we will do, but ultimately we're going to have to wait and see. And as you said, it will save money. Howard Charling says, do you think Warner Brothers Discovery will be around in 15 years? Yeah, Warner Brothers will be around in some form. It's been around for 100 years. Ricardo says, do you think the rumors are the MCU could be rebooted after Secret Wars? It could make sense to recast some older characters, but not some people who just appeared, like Miss Marvel and Moon Knight. I definitely feel Secret Wars could be their way of closing up the multiverse and getting back to maybe going, that's what I think what could happen with Secret Wars is they kind of close up the multiverse, and then we, as you say, we maybe get stuck with like a new one. I think that definitely could be, I definitely could see that happening. Ricardo says, I haven't heard anything about Disney Nature. I suppose it's already mixed with National Geographic. No, it's not. It's just they only tend to release like one or two types. They only release like one movie like every few years. That one year they released Elephant and Penguins together seemed a little bit odd, but we've got Tiger coming out next year. They tend to kind of put stuff out a little bit separately. Kayla says, I do remember when Johnny Gargano mentioned that when he was watching Blue with his son on Disney Plus it is massive. It is massive. And Johnny Gargano is a massive fan of Disney and Marvel and everything. C-Tan, I generally prefer a weekly to binge, but I thought the Mandalorian season 3 would make more sense binge drop considering the Doctor perishing episode, which I thought could cause viewer confusion. I don't know about viewer confusion. I just feel like they should have done with that episode was split it up and mix it in with some of the other episodes, like a normal TV show where you have multiple storylines going on at once, rather than suddenly just doing this different one. Matt says, can't wait for Small Light to come out. Yeah, no, it's a good show. I really enjoyed it. Yeah, it's really good. Kevin said, I feel the Last Jedi backlash broke a lot of brains on YouTubers since they're all copying and pasting the same. I feel like ultimately the thing is with the internet and YouTube, negativity gets clicks and views, and that is ultimately what a lot of this stuff is. A lot of it is because they know that if you are negative, and I find this with like my videos and my articles, sometimes the negative stuff is always more popular. And the trouble is, I'm not really in that zone of I'm not very good at leaning in on that stuff. I'm probably a little bit more positive with stuff. I always call stuff out if I don't like it or something like that, but I'm not necessarily going after, the click. I get people going, it's clickbait. Like, well, it's not clickbait it's like, no, but generally negativity just sells better. Matt says Disney Nature is the spiritual successor to the Disney True Life adventure films from the 50s. Yeah, I could definitely agree with that one. Ryan says, did I miss anything on Disney Plus? Depends when you last watched it. That's the key thing. If you haven't watched it for 6 months, then you've missed a lot. If you haven't watched it since yesterday, then you might not have. No, there's been some great stuff coming out recently. LMP Productions says, I think Secret Laws will reset some of the aspects of the MCU, but not all of them. Yeah. And that says, I don't think they can merge Freeform and ABC since Freeform is a cable network, while ABC is a traditional broadband network. That would make more sense to merge Freeform and FX. I think the Freeform channel is just going to carry on as it is, but you're going to start seeing a lot less originals there. You're just going to see some shows maybe from Hulu and Disney Plus like jumping, because I feel like it's like, say, something like Willow or National Treasure or something. In some ways, it's like maybe these shows should have gone out and like Mysterious Benedict Society and stuff. They've been doing it like with Big Shot stuff of like maybe before canceling it, put them out on linear and like see how they do there as well, and kind of see if you can build momentum for like more, rather than like throwing them straight in the can. Maybe Willow on an ABC night would have been like a good thing, not straight away. Maybe 6 months later, and then see how the ratings go and stuff. See if you can get people in. Matt says, I see they brought back the coming soon section in Disney Plus. It'll probably be gone again tomorrow. They keep moving it around. So Tom says, why does the coming soon page keep coming and going? I think they're constantly moving things. I also feel as well, I would imagine that there might be a point where the coming soon page of when they've run out of there might be like a minimum number of things that have to be on it in order for it to be there. So when stuff gets removed, gets like released, if they haven't maybe got enough stuff in there coming up that they've made like pages for, because they don't make the landing pages for so many of the stuff that's coming up, and they do it for some of the big releases. But I do wonder if there's a kind of like there's like a maybe if there's only got 3, they take it off because it doesn't look good. Okay, so I'm really glad you don't lean into negativity. That's why this YouTube channel is refreshing. Yeah, I mean, obviously, if there's something I don't like, I'll be honest. I'll be very honest with you on stuff like this, but I try not. It's just not who I am. I will talk about stuff I don't like, things that aren't things, and I will talk about that stuff. And I feel like it's important that I do. But if I didn't, it kind of feels a bit odd. If I didn't enjoy the stuff I'm watching and stuff, I will be honest. I feel like we're at a point now, like with Disney Plus, of like I don't feel the same inclination that I have to watch everything the same because of the amount of Star Originals and stuff. I sometimes can't watch everything, and if it doesn't appeal to me, I might not watch it. And that's kind of the thing. And I can't get around it. Sometimes it's just too much. Back in the couple of years ago when we only had like one thing a week, it was much more like I could do it. But like there's so much stuff coming out, I can't always do it. And that's always a key thing. Matt says, I'd love to see Disney Plus and other streaming services add a playlist function. It would be a lot of fun for marathons, especially while doing group watches. Yeah, I mean, it would make sense for them to do that. So just a quick reminder. So we're going to end up in about 5 minutes time. So just get your last questions in. We're going to be finishing up in about 3 minutes. That'll be when we'll do it. LMP Production says, basically what I see them doing after Secret Wars is they'll make X-Men, always having been part of the MCU, introducing them officially into the MCU. I don't see them recasting characters. Oh, I think they're going to recast. I think we're going to get Iron Man back, Black Widow. I think we're going to set the tone that it's going to be how all this comes in. Matt says, I heard 100 coming out on Disney Plus in the US tonight. Oh, it's 100 time. It's a time special is coming out today. Thanks for reminding me. That's going out on ABC, Hulu, and Disney Plus. We're seeing a little bit more of this. So there's a time special about the top 100 people, and I think Bob Iger's on the list. Tom says, I started watching 911 and I'm enjoying it. I still can't believe that at this point, the bad people at Fox News and the people the thing is, Fox Entertainment and Fox News were very different, and 20th century, they're all off doing their own separate things, and Fox News was kind of doing its own separate thing, going after a different audience than like the Fox network. And that's why when Disney's taken over big parts of it, they've tried to remove the Fox branding so it's not connected to it all. So very, very weird of how it all worked and stuff. Right, last one. Kayla says, I do believe that once Disney and Comcast come to agreement to what to do with Disney Plus will do a relaunch with an updated UI as it will get a lot bigger. Yeah, I definitely can see that one. Matt says, do you think Disney could experiment by having limited theatrical premieres on Disney Plus Originals? So maybe just like first episodes. I'll be honest, there are some times where, for example, like a few weeks ago, watched an episode of Mandalorian at Star Wars Celebration on the big screen. Fantastic. I saw like episodes of Dope Sick and Moon Knight on a big screen. That was great. The trouble is, you're then putting it out onto theatrical. The cinemas then take a cut. They have to promote it. It costs a lot of money to promote it. So it's a very tricky situation with how they do all this one. Bobatron says, I think the reason why people are review bombing because people are putting their personal views and beliefs in reviews, and I think that's the wrong way to make a review. I don't think there's anything wrong with doing your personal views and belief if you don't like something or you're not agreeing with it, putting it into a review, that's kind of the point of review. Sometimes things connect with you more. I'm going to be writing a review later tonight about a show that's coming out, and there's going to be some stuff in there that my personal views and stuff will be a part of a review. But again, not liking it and doing a review because you don't agree with it is kind of maybe a little bit different. LMP, I think Disney should be more consistent with the coming soon section. Maybe instead of linking to landing pages, just use posters and release it. I mean, that's ultimately what all that landing page is a poster and a trailer. I mean, once we've got a trailer, you might as well just put it up there. Matt says, what happened to lifetime content coming to Disney Plus? Who knows? I mean, we seem to keep going through like stages of like random stuff just being added. Tom says, I also wish the coming soon list was an order than just a random placement. It would make sense to, wouldn't you think? And Kelly says, I agree with Bubba. I remember the same actress. Film critics do their job reviewing films, but personal attacks are unacceptable. Yeah, I never get that. Definitely don't agree with a personal attack on something like that. It's not right with a review. You know, you might be like, didn't like their performance, but you know, they're still people. They're still, you know, this. Yeah, I don't get it. But again, it's just this blurring of the lines. Right. Okay. So on that note, there, that is going to be the end of today's live Q&A. So next week we'll be live at the same time. But what I'm going to be doing is, because of the King's coronation, which is on Saturday, we're going to open this one up to everybody. So we're going to open it up to all of our subscribers. So we're doing it for an hour. I don't know if I necessarily will do pre-done questions, because I might just let it just be open and I can just answer questions as soon as possible. So yeah, so next week is we're going to do like a coronation. I know, like, Americans, so you might not care, but it's a big. We got a bank holiday weekend next weekend. It's actually a bank holiday weekend this weekend as well. But yeah, so for the stuff there that's going to happen, we'll have that one there. I just spotted. Lester says, really happen to the content after Hulu will be sold, or will it be put into a separate company? What do you think about that? Okay, so as far as the content with Hulu, I think it's good. Say they sold it to Comcast. There's one of two things. There's a couple of things I think could happen. First off, there might be, when they sell it, maybe a way that they put it into that they get their content back at a certain date and they get it back. That might be one way of doing it. There might be a way of, when they sell it, they might be like, oh yeah, you get 5 years or 10 years of access to this as a kind of a selling thing. Or it might be, you get access to this for 10 years, but we also get shared access. That could be a way of doing it. We could see all the stuff being removed. Also, there might be some originals might stay with Hulu. You know, maybe they've been created especially for Hulu and aren't made by Disney's companies and stuff. That might be another way. But yeah, definitely wanted to do that one. So there we go. So again, a big thank you to Azhar for doing the new logo and stuff. That was fantastic for the Q&A. So thank you so much for him. And on that note, guys, thank you very much. See you guys soon. Latest.